Welcome to The Gorgeous Effect, the podcast that's about to rock your marketing world. I'm Julie Chenell, and with my co-founder, Cathy Olson, we're the masterminds behind Funnel Gorgeous and FG Funnels. Buckle up, we're about to drop some serious tea on how to create funnels that not only look amazing, but actually convert into customers. We'll chat mouth-watering offers, copy, design, and give you an inside look from behind the scenes of some of our best and worst funnels. No smoke and mirrors, just real strategies that work from two ladies who have been around the funnel block. You'll walk away with no BS advice, war stories from the trenches, and actionable tips that will help you stand out in the digital noise. So grab your coffee or something stronger, we won't judge, and get ready to unleash the gorgeous effect on your business. It's time to show the world what you've got. Let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of The Gorgeous Effect. Cathy, I don't know if you're ready for this. We're going to go down memory lane and we are going to talk about our origin story, like where we come from. I was thinking about this the other day because whenever someone asks me how I met my new fiance, and I'm always like a little embarrassed to be like online dating, because even though everyone meets that way, but it just reminds me of like so many people meet online these days, despite the fact that it's a fairly new thing. So I'm excited to talk to everyone today about how we came to meet, because it was online, was it not?
It was absolutely online, and it was very like non-intentional, accidental, which gives me faith in so many things. I actually like think about our origin story often when I'm like not sure what's going to happen or whatever, or I'm trying to be like super controlling of a situation.
Yeah.
I remember how we met and how I had like no control and it was totally random, which of course is not totally random, but it actually gives me hope in like good things happening without you doing it on purpose. So yes. I think it's a cool story to tell, and hopefully it actually people will think of that when they think, you know, sometimes when I let go of things, that's when awesome things happen. So I never know. Yeah.
I think it was nighttime. I don't know if it was night exactly, but I remember getting tagged on a post.
Night.
It was night. Yeah. So why don't you tell it from your perspective first?
Yeah, so I was on East Coast time, so it was funny. Like, you know, it's like if I were to have been in California, who knows if we would have connected live like that. But I was in Miami. So for me, like back then, and I guess this was 2017-ish.
Yeah.
Back then, I never traveled ever. So this was a really big deal for me to be in Miami, to travel all the way across this big United States with little kids. You know, like it was a big deal for me. And so I went to a conference, I guess you could call it a conference, but a small event, and to learn about sales funnels. Specifically, I flew across the world in my, you know, back in those days to go to a conference that was to teach me about sales funnels. So just like a 2-second background, I'm a graphic designer, web designer, but I didn't know what sales funnels were. I knew kind of like a little bit about them, but I didn't really know about them. And so it was a big deal for me to go there. I think it was like day 2 or 3, and I was more confused about sales funnels than I'd ever been before. Even
it was not a good conference, is what you're saying.
Like, if you could go negative in knowledge, that was kind of what I was doing. I was like, it was like sucking knowledge out of me. And I was so upset because I had come all this way. It was a lot of money for me at the time, you know, and I don't know if anyone else feels like that, like where you go to something and you're like, this was my thing. This was going to be the thing that I went to that's going to like change my life. Right. And so, yeah, anyway, I was really disappointed. I went into a Facebook group. I had a roommate, but she wasn't there at the time in our hotel room. And so I went into a Facebook group and I said, I was just like at my wit's end. And I'm sure you guys have felt this before too. Who knows about sales funnels? I'm at an event trying to learn about sales funnels. I don't understand them. I'm so confused. What is an upsell, a downsell, a cross-sell, a OTO? I was like, what are the prices? How do you figure out the prices? And it's just so complicated, which I always try to remember that when I think about when we introduce sales funnels to people. And someone tagged you in the Facebook group. It was a mom's like entrepreneurial Facebook group. Someone tagged you. And again, you just happened to be online.
Happened to be there trolling in Facebook groups.
It was like real time. It was live. Someone tagged you, said, oh, if you need to know about sales funnels, Julie's your girl. I think everybody else in the post was trying to sell me on something. So that, you need to understand that, because Julie was like the anti not trying to sell me anything, even though, I don't know, maybe you were, but it didn't seem like you were.
I wasn't. No, I really wasn't.
Yeah. So we just started like this live conversation via a post where I was like, you're like, sure, what do you need to know? And I'm like, okay, like an order bump. How do I know how much it costs? And you're like, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd be like, okay, but this. And then we just had this rapid fire conversation in the comments, like not even
in the comments. Yeah.
Not even DM. So yeah, for an hour, like this is the way I remember. I don't know if you remember it this way, but
I was on Facebook for a long time. I was like, man, she keeps replying. So I'm just going to keep replying back.
It was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which I've never even had that since. And you were just so helpful. You explained it in such a way I finally understood it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've learned more from you in the last, hour than I have for flying all the way to Miami to this event and da-da-da. And I was like, I need to talk to you, or I don't know, something happened and we moved to the DMs. And then we were talking in the DMs and you're like, I know exactly what event you're at.
I was like, I know the person, I know the event, I know why you're so mad, and it's not you. Like, it's not your fault. Like, this person was kind of a scammer.
Yeah. So you made me feel so much better. And then I said, how do I hire, like, you've given me all this free advice. Like, what next? Like, can I put a ring on it? Like, can I hire you? Can we start like doing something? And you're like, oh yeah, I get. Like, you were so nonchalant about it. And again, I don't know if you did it on purpose, but it worked.
It wasn't. I mean, I was still pretty young in my own sales skills, so I was definitely more timid than I am today in that time period, for sure.
Yeah, like I said, it worked. It worked for me because I didn't want to, get sold to, because I was in such a vulnerable place, I would say, right? After spending all that money. And so, yeah, you were like, let's talk when you get back on Monday. We booked a call, and then we had a call. And then I don't know how far you want me to go into it, but that was the beginning. That was the birth story.
I think what's so funny is from my perspective, it was 2017. I had made some decent money, but I wasn't as good at sales as I am today. And I remember thinking to myself, I knew the person who was at the conference, and I knew she was going to try to sell you something really expensive. And so when you said you wanted to work with me, I felt bad to be like undercutting her. At the same time, I was like, you're not going to get what you need from her. And so I sold Cathy the sales funnel boot camp. So I had these sales funnel boot camps. They were 8 weeks, and you could choose. You could either do a low ticket funnel, or you could do a webinar funnel. And so she chose the low ticket funnel. And by the time that round was ready to start, I hadn't sold any more spots. So I always seemed to be able to fill the webinar one, but it was really hard to fill the low ticket one. And so she was the only student. And I tell this story all the time because there are so many business owners who like run paid workshops, or they try to do these boot camps, and they get really discouraged when they only have 1 or 2 people, and they feel lame, and they feel like, gosh, should I even run it? Should I just refund their money? It's going to be so much work for one person, and all this kind of stuff.
If you would have refunded me my money, like, you don't understand. I would have been so upset. And from my perspective, hello, score. Like, right. I was the only person. So it was like, it was amazing. So I would have been so upset if you would have canceled it. So please don't ever do that to someone, because
you were
perspective. Yeah.
You were looking forward to it. I mean, I think it was like $3,000, $2,000 or $3,000, somewhere in that price range.
Yeah.
And so obviously for me, as I'm selling 4 or 5 people into it, I'm making a good amount of money. I had only sold Cathy, but I didn't know at the time what I was doing, but I knew that investing in her, because she had invested in me, was somehow going to pay itself back. And I think that's an important lesson. I just had a conversation with someone, and I spent a lot of time, and I didn't really get a lot in return right away, but I thought this is all about planting seeds for later, because you just never know. Like, and if someone would have told me in 2017, that boot camp you're doing with Cathy is going to turn into a multi-million-dollar company with 15, employees and contractors and millions of dollars, like, I would have just, I would have laughed. I would have been like, you're crazy. So we we worked together for 8 weeks. I was her coach. She was the client. And she worked so flipping hard, you guys. I was like, man, she's good at what she does and she works like a dog. And it was so much work. It was so much work. And I was so excited about launching your funnel that I said, hey, your funnel is going to be amazing. I want to do Facebook ads as like a training. If you let me use your funnel, and I'll do like a free training to get her funnel out the door. And you said yes. And I think that funnel made
I didn't know how to do it myself. So I again, score again for me. Like my luck was on my side. Hey, can I like launch your Facebook ads, totally in front of the whole world? Yes.
Sure. So the funnel was amazing. It was a great funnel, so well designed, such a good product. Even the free lead magnet, we still use it to this day. Like it was not like, quick throw it up work. It was like, the 50 font pairings guide that we still use in FG Society 7 years later, So it was great work. So I published this talk about doing Facebook ads. I did all the Facebook ads. And I think that funnel cleared like 100K within a couple months. And it was a $27 front end offer.
It was crazy. And you made me think about when you're talking about the guide. That was like the hardest thing I've ever created, and it was for free. Like there's something about, and I think people learn this kind of when they're our students, like how hard you have to work for things that you wouldn't think that you have to.
Yes.
Like I remember you even telling me you have to sell the free thing just as hard as any like not free thing, or you have to it has to be ridiculous. Like I remember you just saying like. What if you, and we still do that to this day. We do stuff we're like, this would be ridiculous. Like this, no one would expect this from us. And that's the point. But that was one of the things that I learned from you so early on, but has like served us so well and served our students so well, like to go way above and beyond like what anyone would ever think you could possibly do. And just that free guide was like, I remember how I worked on it for hours and hours and hours. And you were like, yes, but again, that we still use it to this day, right? So it's like that dividend has paid off so much since then.
Yeah. So it was about 8 or 9 months later, maybe 7 months later, I asked Cathy to join my mastermind when I opened it, and she agreed.
You asked me.
I don't know that I gave her a choice in the matter. I said, you are joining this. But sometime in the spring of 2018, must have been the early spring, you came up to me and proposed that we do a joint venture together. And it was, I get a lot of proposals, but hers was good because she said, I'm a classically trained designer, you're a classically trained marketer. Let's bring these two together and let's create a course on funnel design. And now it seems so like, oh, of course there's a million out there, but back then there really wasn't. There was not a lot going on. And so we agreed to do this joint venture together. And I remember I opened a Google Doc and I was like, okay, what's our sweat equity going in? Each of us agreed to give like $15,000 worth of sweat equity into this project. So it was like $15,000 of Cathy's design brain and her teaching brain and her content brain, because she was the primary teacher in that program. And then my $15,000 of sweat equity was in the copywriting and in the email list and the audience that I had. And do you remember the name? Originally, you had come up with Gorgeous Funnels as the name, right? Do you remember that conversation we had?
I don't remember it. I mean, I guess kind of, but not that specifically. But I do remember being really scared of using it because at the time, like you said, there was nothing out there like this. Like design was really seen as just an afterthought in funnels. And it was very masculine and, like all dude bro, whatever. So this was everything that you like don't do. So yeah. I don't remember that I called it Gorgeous Funnels first, but
I remember because you were like Gorgeous Funnels and you're like Funnel Gorgeous. And you were like, no, that's weird. Does that sound weird? I'm like Funnel Gorgeous. No, that actually sounds right. Like at first, now we say it so often that like Funnel Gorgeous just like makes sense. But in that conversation, I remember us being like, that sounds a little awkward, but actually it sounds a little cool. And so we switched it. So it became Funnel Gorgeous versus Gorgeous Funnels. because that was the original. And we were like, are we going to use this word? Are we really going to like throw this word down in a real male dominated market?
Yeah. I'm looking at the Funnel Gorgeous logo right behind you, right behind me. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I can't see it any other way now. It's actually almost like it's a very Spanish way actually of saying it, because you always say like the descriptor after. So like Funnel like you wouldn't say it's a beautiful girl, you'd say girl beautiful. And so it's funny that it worked out that way. But I think it made it stand out. I think if we were to say gorgeous funnels, it would have been almost pedestrian or something. But there's something about
that's a good one.
Switching it that made it like, like it was just a little bit different.
Little tweak.
That's kicked off my whole philosophy of naming too. Like, by the way, and I talk about the word gorgeous and how like scary it was for us to use, and we're like, no guy's gonna wear a shirt with the word gorgeous on it. And I'm like, but it was one of the things that ended up really paying off. Like just being brave about the name, I think really like it made us make a splash.
Yeah.
Early.
So we launched on August 6th. We did a classic 5-day launch. It was a course. It came with templates, 4 templates at the time. They were on ClickFunnels because that was the world that I was in. I was, employed at ClickFunnels. There was all that going on. And we launched, we made $55,000. And so we paid each other back our sweat equity and then our extras. And it was not in our cards to be like, hey, let's make this a company at all. This was just a joint venture, but people absolutely loved Cathy's templates, like loved. And so very quickly, people were like, we want more. And it was funny because the very first one, and this just goes to show what was happening at the time, is people were like, what about handsome funnels, right? Because that was the reaction, because we had like launched with this brave name using this real feminine word. We weren't just for women. We basically were like, anyone who has a female customer needs to know how to be gorgeous. Like, I'm sorry, but you do. And that includes many male business owners too. And so we had launched it. And so people were just like, what about being handsome? And so our first template drop in September was, it wasn't a new course, but it was a new drop, a new funnel drop. We called them funnel drops, and we only sold them for 5 days, and you could get them for like $50. They were ClickFunnels templates, and we launched Funnel Handsome to make sure the guys didn't feel left out.
I completely forgot about that. But Remember? It's so funny but it was kind of ridiculous because not the whole reason, but a lot of the reason that we did Funnel Gorgeous is because there was a lack of feminine design out there. Like you could find male, like not, and I say male, but honestly in the design world, neutral is masculine, really. Like like just design out of the box is masculine, period, right? Like that's like the default is masculine. So there was default everywhere. There wasn't feminine anywhere. And so we were serving a market that was like crying out for something that didn't just have like hearts on it or pink, like, right? Like the super obvious cliche way. And so it was funny that we came out with Funnel Handsome because we were like, fine, here, get your regular
gorgeous, handsome funnel you ever saw.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. So what happened after that is it was very obvious that people were loving us together. They were loving the combination of teaching and strategy that we had brought to the Funnel Gorgeous course, and they loved the templates. So I personally, Julie, didn't have in my head that we were going to become a company just yet, partially because I was so bogged down working for ClickFunnels and then managing my mastermind. I couldn't imagine like adding more to the plate. But as the months went on, we were doing new designs every month. These were so much work, like insane amounts of work. We were building ClickFunnels templates that were better than anything else out there. They had asset keys and colorways and all this kind of crazy stuff that no other templates were doing. And we would launch them for 5 days a month. We'd make like 10 grand a month, but we would be like, splitting veins, getting this stuff out. And we had all kinds of designs. And somewhere in 2019, I think it became obvious that this was not going away. Like our brand that we had built was bigger than just a course. Our chemistry was bigger than just one joint venture. And I was in a lot of turmoil in my business with ClickFunnels and stuff like that. But I remember you saying to me, you sent me a message sometime in the spring of 2019, and you're like, when are we going to have 100K month? Like, it was just this like random thing. I think you were at an event. Maybe you were at like the 2 Comma Club X event, and you just got this like bee in your bonnet that you wanted 100K month. And I was like, well, I don't know how we're going to get to 100K because these little template drops take a crap ton of work and they're only making us 10 grand. And that's when we came out with the idea of really being like, okay, this is more than just one course. This is actually like a company, and we're going to launch a second course called Webinar Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
I was very much. I remember like exactly where I was and all that. Because again, you think about it later on and you're like, oh my gosh, that was the moment. But I think I want to say too, one thing that I think made us so successful in the beginning is that when we were launching funnel templates, they weren't just funnel templates. We were literally giving brands. Like when you talked about the asset keys and the colors, I started thinking, again, along the lines of like over delivering things that no one else is doing. Every single month we were dropping brands in people's pockets. Like here's,
for $50.
Right. And like, so like it was the colorways, it was fonts, it was like, it was basically the whole look and feel of an entire business you could have used it for. So I just wanted to make sure I said that because there was a reason. I guess I look back at it now and there's a reason it was taking off and doing so well. And so basically everything we did with Funnel Gorgeous would just do better than we thought it was going to do. And it was so much easier than anything else. So this is starting to like shift our mindsets of like, we're working separately. We had separate businesses. We're doing stuff. But again, it's like not pretty difficult, but it's like swimming upstream. It seemed like everything we did with Funnel Gorgeous would have had like a rocket strapped to the back of it. And like people just loved it. So like it was like our fun project. It was like we would do stuff with our, I don't know, quote unquote day jobs. And then we would do Funnel Gorgeous stuff and people would just be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So it led us into kind of wanting to do more and more and more because it was like the sweet stuff, it was like the good stuff. And so when I was at that event, it was the platinum event, which you had to like earn your way into. You had to have sold a certain amount or whatever to get in there. So it was like a higher level group. So it's like, when you go to those events where people kind of pull you up and they tell you what's possible. So I started seeing people doing 100K launch and I was like, I want that. I want 100K. So then you definitely came up with the idea of Webinar Gorgeous. I think I just said, what could we do to make the money? And you said, well, webinars would do that. So so you came up with doing a webinar.
So what was interesting is at the time, I was in a lot of turmoil in the early 2019 because I was being brought in as a partner for ClickFunnels. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to get rid of my business. So there was a lot of upheaval. So during that time, Cathy went and got the LLC and started all the official stuff. And so originally Funnel Gorgeous was just under Cathy's name. And there was actually a point in time there where I was afraid that I was going to have to give up Funnel Gorgeous because of some of the negotiations that were happening at ClickFunnels. I did not know the fate of where I was going to stand. And so Cathy was sort of holding this baby that was doing amazingly well. She was holding it in like, we're going to wait and see what happens with Julie's, life over here, her business life. And and so we launched Webinar Gorgeous and I did the primary teaching. This time I was the primary teacher. I taught a sort of a spin-off on Russell's Perfect Webinar, but then we brought in the design. We brought in the design templates for the webinars itself. And we sold over 100,000. I think we sold $125,000 worth of Webinar Gorgeous. And we had that 100K month, not 2 months after you had kind of spoken it into existence. And so at that point, right around that time, I decided to resign from ClickFunnels. It was not the right fit for me. And so I knew that my future was in Funnel Gorgeous. Like I just had this feeling that was where my future was headed. And so in July, with new bandwidth, kind of freed up, we did our first Funnel Gorgeous retreat. And it was very clear that this was becoming a company. This was becoming a brand that had its own legs, its own dynamic. And that fall, we launched our first low ticket funnel. They used to call them SLO funnels. We call them paid lead makers. We call them PLM funnels. And it was Offer Cure, which is a course that has sold more than any other course we have. We have over 25,000 students in Offer Cure. It still sells to this day. We launched that funnel together, and that kind of took off, like almost went viral. It was accelerating really fast. People absolutely loved it. And so by the end of 2019, we were officially a company. And in 2020, we got our legal thing, our legal ish together. We became a multi-member LLC. We wrote up an operating agreement, and we walked the stage at Funnel Hacking Live and received our 2 Comma Club award for all the work we had done. And that was like a big moment for us. A year and a half after we started, we had made $1 million in sales.
It was a big moment, but it was also not what I expected. It was weird. And I don't know if it's like, if anyone's ever felt that, like when you put so much energy and thought and you like literally imagine what it's going to be like when you finally get to this place. And I remember thinking, this is not what I thought. Like I thought, like, I don't know, it looks so different from the outside than when you're there. And I went to your room there and I was like crying, and I was like, this is not as good as I thought it was going to be. And I remember you have talked about that sense, and you're like, you become the person that it becomes normal for, you know? Yeah. So by the time we walked the stage, of course we were so excited. And that's why I still have my award up now, because someone asked me the other day, why do you still have that award up? I'm like, because it's mine. I earned it. And it meant a lot to me. But at the time, it also was like so normal. Like by the time we got there, it was like, oh, this doesn't feel like it just was handed to me. It feels like we scraped and, clawed to get here. So it doesn't feel like it was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's very interesting. So it's just an interesting time to think about when you grow like that, how you become something different, where it's like kind of like old hat. It's almost like it doesn't feel like new or I don't know. It doesn't feel like you expect it to feel when you're imagining it, because when you're imagining it, it's this aspirational. It's this, the goalposts move. And so by the time you get there, you have got the strength. And so you're like, you've got the strength to hold $1 million. So you're like, oh, this is not a big deal. This is the same as like holding a 10-pound weight when you hit 30-pound weights, so you acclimate. And then it doesn't feel as exciting. But, I think it was a good lesson. In 2020 hit, you guys all know what happened in 2020. We had some crazy times. And I don't think we have time in this episode to go through our accidental conference that we launched in 6 weeks because of something that Julie did that, got messed up. That was fun. But we launched brand new programs. We launched Launch Gorgeous. We launched FG Society. We shut down, a lot of our individual courses and continued to merge together. But the big thing that started to happen in 2020 was the realization that the majority of our business assets and our business products were tied to a software company that wasn't doing so well. And ClickFunnels had its heyday. And having come from the ClickFunnels world, I saw the writing on the wall all the way back in 2019. And I remember saying to Cathy, we can't hook our cart to this horse anymore. But it was so scary because everything we had built was in ClickFunnels. Our whole audience was ClickFunnels. And to unhook from that didn't just mean going to find a new audience. It also meant having to redesign everything we had done from the ground up. Now looking back, it was probably the scariest move we've made to date, which paid off massively, despite the fact that it caused a little bit of hellfire and brimstone for sure on us. It was also pretty, I just remembered this the other day, that was the year we got number 4 or something in that contest for them too. Just earlier that year, we were one of the
Traffic Secrets.
We were number 4 behind Graciosi or something, right? Yeah. It was crazy. And so we had done this amazing affiliate push just earlier that year. So I can see how it felt whiplashy to other people. Yeah, but I think that made it worse, but it didn't, you never know what's going on the inside, right? And so I think that was why it was hard for people, because just earlier that year we were on the top of the world, right? It seems like it. Of course, 2020 was 2020 and lots of crazy things are happening. But I was just thinking about it the other day. I was like, that's probably part of why it felt like that for other people. But again, you don't know what's going on in the inside. You don't know how much is wrestling, right? And that was hard for me. I mean, I remember crying.
It was hard for me too, because I really liked Russell. Like, Russell is my friend. He was like, I owe a lot to him, but I also could very, very clearly see that keeping all of our business products on ClickFunnels was not a smart move, because
it wasn't a good alignment for us. Like, there becomes a point where it's like, you stay loyal to someone, but like, what is the loyalty? Because it's not like it's a business thing, but it's also, what is the best for you? What's the best for your family? What's the best for
our customers?
Yeah,
I mean, that's also the big thing. Like, what was the best for our customers? And so we started to like brainstorm the idea of launching our own software and building our own software. Of course, that was a huge project. It seemed like, it would require 4 years and millions of dollars. And so we got introduced to the owners of High Level. And at the time, it was in 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. And they weren't super popular yet. They were serving agencies. They didn't even have a SaaS offer. Like, that didn't even exist. But we met with them and we explained some of our needs for our templates and what would make designing and customizing our templates easier. And they turned around a new feature in their software within 2 weeks, I think, in an attempt to show that they cared about what our customers would care about, that they wanted us on board. And so we agreed to launch our own white label version of High Level. It was somewhere in late summer 2020. And the crazy part about this story, because now it's super popular and trendy and everyone and their mother does it, we had to do all this manual work in the back end because we were one of the first people doing SaaS, right? Everyone else was doing these done for you agencies. So there was a lot of technical stuff. There was still a lot that was left to be desired in the software. There were definitely kinks, back in 2020. It's now 4 years later and $1 bajillion of venture capital. It's way better now. But we had to move every single one of our funnels off of ClickFunnels into High Level.
Like,
and it was,
you think about.
yeah, like we inched towards, I mean, it wasn't $100,000 to move everything, but it's like, how you don't like spending money, like copying and pasting? That's literally, we were spending thousands of dollars recreating things in a new software. And at the time, Russell hadn't even announced ClickFunnels 2.0 yet. We just knew that 1.0 was not doing great and that there was a lot of churn in the water. And we launched FG Funnels. We didn't even do a launch. We literally just told our diehards, hey, we're starting this software thing. If you want to sign up. Do you remember? I didn't even think we even emailed our list.
I
was so scared
we were going to break it or something.
I was so scared.
But I mean, it's funny about the investment, because when you put it into perspective, though, we were actually thinking about building our own software. So before we were introduced to High Level, we actually had a name and everything. Remember? We were totally thinking this was before the other. There's two different things softwares that we've tried or thought about building, but we were like, okay, this is going to be millions of dollars. It's going to take years, and so that was one of the things that kind of talked us into it. So even
we saved the name we liked because we were like, this name over here is going to become a software. So let's just quick pick a name that we can use for High Level, because this is going to be temporary until we get our own software. And now we laugh so much at the name we chose for High Level because we didn't actually see it as we thought about it. We're like, okay, well, let's see what High Level can do, but if we can build our own, even better. But we quickly realized that High Level was the right horse to hitch our cart to.
Yeah,
and we were like,
glad we didn't do our own.
We scrapped that idea, but now we're stuck with this kind of goofy name.
I know. I remember my daughter, she was maybe 8 or 9 at the time. And she was like, wait, FG Funnels. So FG stands for Funnel Gorgeous. So it's Funnel Gorgeous Funnels. So you say funnel twice. And I'm like, just don't ask. It's fine.
Don't ask. You know what? But this is we realized very quickly that the idea of building our own software was a terrible idea. And the guys at High Level had deep pockets because venture capital was coming and funding them. And there was so many developers and so many features, and they were blowing everybody out of the water. And so we quickly realized, hey, we can give this boutique feel with the power of the best like engine in the market. And so, that name and that idea is scrapped, and we are 100%, 1000% high level, focused and committed for the long term. And we realized this quickly way before, because what happened was high level what still wasn't popular. We got 1,000 users in 6 weeks, which was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. 2021 was when there was a lot of hubbub about ClickFunnels 2.0, and all the affiliates were worried about losing their affiliate commissions, and was 1.0 going to get depreciated? And so 2021 and 2022, there was this mass migration off of ClickFunnels because of all of the disruption going on over there. And so high level started to take off. And now all of a sudden, every ClickFunnels affiliate and every internet marketer wanted to run their own SaaS and their own agency. And so we just saw this huge influx of competition. We had people that we had to like block their IP addresses. They kept trying to sign up and steal our stuff because we were the market leader from ClickFunnels, because we had been there for 2 years already, and everyone wanted to hack our stuff. Do you remember?
I totally remember. You were like people that if I said their names, you would know. Yeah. trying to like see what the heck we were doing and how we were doing such a good job.
Yeah. So so from most of 2021 and 2022, we sort of plateaued around 1,500 users, because guys, it's hard to manage 1,500 users. Like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And we had to build an internal customer support team and internal HR. And there was like all this like infrastructure. It took us almost a year to rebuild all of our funnels inside of FG Funnels. We had to build all of our own documentation. There was a lot of work. And then we also had a ton of competitors on our heels that were trying to hack us and figure out what we were doing. And so it wasn't until 2023 that we kind of busted out of that plateau, because, we just can't grow and stabilize at the same time. So we had to stabilize, but then we started growing in 2023, and we crossed 2,000 users. And I think now we're at 2,100 users. We're one of the top, SaaS preneurs, or whatever they call them, in the high level ecosystem. But we've always maintained that design and marketing need to be married and not to separate the two. And it's trendy now, but it wasn't then.
Well, I also think, something that's not trendy now probably, but and it's almost like the vitamin that nobody wants to think about, is the customer support side. And so whenever we've gone to an event or people are asking like, oh, how do you have so many people? And I remember you saying, I don't want this to grow as fast as possible or as big as possible, as fast as possible, right? Like, because I want to make sure that the customer support experience is great. And that was really having a lot of restraint, because we could have given away free trials. We could have done, unlimited, like back then there wasn't really all the rules and stuff there are now. So like we could have done all kinds of things to get as many people as like thrown in there as possible. But you really had like these boundaries of like, no, like we're going to keep it slow and steady. Slow and steady runs the race. And of course I'm like, let's go. And you're like, no, slow and steady, like I'm telling you, customer support, boutique. Like you got to keep telling me and probably the whole team that over and over and over again. And again, I don't think that's like the popular thing. I think everyone's like grow at any expense. But we outlasted so many people like that tried and gave up because they were burned out, right? Like just like meteor, just like really fast.
Bright star and then crash.
And then burn, and then gone. So like that just right there, you seeing the future on that has been such a great thing. And I just wanted to like make sure that I said that the customer support has always been number one. Like, it doesn't matter how big we are. As soon as we start not taking care of people, we're done. Like, it's a game over. And so it doesn't really matter. Even now, we definitely pay attention to users, but customer experience is still our number one.
It's also our largest expense line. I don't really know many other SaaSpreneurs in the space that are hiring full-time US-based customer support with live chat, where people are being paid, significantly more than minimum wage. And most people who are doing this game right now are, and I'm not, no shade on like remote teams like overseas. I'm not saying they're not necessarily good, but if you look at our P&L, you will see that financially, our commitment to customer service is very obvious in the numbers, because that is where we spend the bulk of our money, is in our customer service team and all of the assets for customer service. And then our second giant expense is our affiliate payouts. And we pay our affiliates. We want people to partner with us. We want people to feel like they can sell FG funnels. They can feel good about the customer support that is being offered, and they can depend on the income not getting poached by some latest launch or something like that. And so that is where, if you look at our profit margin, the majority of what we spend goes to those two things. And we have no intent on changing that, because that is part of the gorgeous effect and the secret sauce that makes our company different than everything else that's out there. So I think we've caught them up to date. Here we are in 2024. I don't know what's coming around the bend just yet, but I'm excited about it, because you can be sure that we love to experiment and we love to see what's ahead and be just a little bit ahead of the rest of everyone else.
Yeah, so I hope there was a lot of nuggets in there. I was kind of, as I was going, I was like, gosh, we learned a lot of lessons over that time. So let's try to talk about them. But I think, being true, we didn't actually really talk about Marketer's Heart, and I'm sure we can talk about that like in a different episode. But I do know that community is a huge part of it, and it always has been. We take really, really good care of our the people that choose to listen to us. Like Julie calls them, they're humans. Yep. We see them as friends, and there is, at one point we had to figure out why is this working so well? Like, what is going on? And we realized, we did a lot of work on who are the type of people we want to work with. But I think there's something about being true to like yourself, and also sticking to your morals. Like, if I can say, like, anything that we've done over to this time for our success is like staying true no matter what everyone else is doing. And like, just because everyone else is doing stuff doesn't mean you need to do it. And so I think just being open, being full of integrity, being honest with people, never being like fake or anything, has really, really lent to our success. But it's also made our business really fun, because we don't have to fake it. Right? We don't have to show up and be someone we're not. We don't go to an event and they're like, oh gosh, you're nothing like I thought, right? Because we are who we are. So it makes doing this together so much more fun. And we can talk about in a different episode about what makes a good partnership. But I think that like we complete each other, all those things. But I do think that integrity piece is the number one, marketing with integrity, and choosing. Sometimes it's the hard thing to choose, but we choose we try. Of course, we're not perfect, but we try to make the right decision for our humans, and we always think of them. And so, as an overall, I think when you do that and you lead with your heart, you really can't go wrong when you're trying to build your business.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging with us. I hope you learned something important. As always, please leave a review if you like The Gorgeous Effect, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Gorgeous Effect podcast. Now it's time to hit that funnel builder and turn heads and wallets with your next project.